Hi, Summer. Welcome to the Global Citizen Podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Hello, I'm doing awesome.
Super excited to have you on the show because you are someone we call the serial expat. You've lived in four big cities in the world, which is a huge thing. And this episode is your story in your experience in each of these cities. And we would love to hear about how you found home in all of these cities at different phases in life. And just a summary, so you started off born in Delhi, lived in Delhi until you decided that, hey, actually, I want to move to London. And you spent 4 years there studying. And then you had enough of the London rain, I'm guessing. So you were like, you know what, I'm off to LA to get some sun. And then you were studying and also working there for about 3 years. And now you're currently in Toronto where you're working. So these are pretty big cities, to be honest. You've got Delhi, London, LA, and Toronto now. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. This is probably the first time somebody has introduced me like this and termed me serial expat. I will keep that for future views. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey for the past decade, and I have loved every single city that I've been in, whether that's for studying, whether that's for working, and it's been a very good ride.
I'm going to jump right into it. So Delhi obviously I love Delhi. I have spent some time, in between every time I visited India, family, friends. And I actually lived in Delhi for about 3, 4 years as well when I was living in India. So I personally love Delhi. I think the food scene is amazing. It's got
Yeah.
this energy there, and especially in India, people are very divided with Delhi, Mumbai debate.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've not been to Mumbai, but I think Delhi is a pretty cool city. So what was like obviously being born there and, spent a really good amount of time growing up in Delhi? What was that like?
Wow, that was a very long time ago. Delhi was beautiful. I was born there. I grew up there. My family used to live there. I used to live there with my family. And that's where my childhood is. If I had to describe Delhi in one word, it's just my childhood and eating a lot. So these two things really capture what Delhi has meant to me. Really the foundational things that I've built within myself and the the virtues that I carry with myself now is something that I built from Delhi. I have seen my family do it, my siblings do it, and the way I am when it comes to exploring food and being a foodie. It also comes from Delhi. So you're absolutely right. Delhi is like this perfect place to have great, amazing food. But that's where the journey started. That's where I realized that there is so much more to the world, and Delhi was a perfect jumpstart of a platform for it. And if I wasn't in that melting pot of culture that Delhi is, I wouldn't have realized that there are multiple melting pots within the whole world. And I wanted to explore every single one of them. So that's where the journey started.
Oh, that's amazing. And you mentioned obviously that's the place you were sort of laid your foundation.
Yeah.
Um, you know, all of us, the place that we grew up in holds a very special place in our hearts, whether it's the food, the connections we made, the music we were listening to. So what's that one memory of, you in Delhi? So if it's food or music or, what is that?
Wow, great question. My love for music started when I was a kid. I was one of those little children who would go to there is a music store called Planet M where you would get this was back in the days when you had CDs.
I remember
So
that.
I would drag my parents every single week. We would go to the mall and I would drag them to Planet M or I would drag them to Book Shop, which is a bookstore there. And whilst my mom was browsing saris and suits, I would sneak out. I would go to Planet M. I would look at CDs. And at that time, Disney was very big. So I would look into Hannah Montana, Demi Lovato, Jonas Brothers. So they were really big at that time. I would bring those CDs. I would go to Bookshop. I would bring books for myself. And then every single time, this is a very fond memory that I have, is whether that was me going with friends or with my family, whenever we would go to the mall, we would go to the food court. And at the food court, I would go to Haldiram's. And at Haldiram's, they had the best Raj Kachori. And every single time I would go to the mall, I am going to Haldiram's. I am ordering that. Nobody is sharing that with me, and I'm finishing the whole thing by myself. And that's a very fond memory I have of growing up there, of the little things that I would do for myself, my music, my books, they all are packaged in that mall trip. And I would spend time with my mom or my dad. And both my parents they really appreciate food. My mom is a fabulous cook. So every single day she would call us our lab rats. So my brother and I, she would create something in the kitchen out of leftovers from 2 days before, or she would see a recipe online of a different cuisine and she would try it, and then we would be the lab rats, and then we would try it with her, give her feedback, and then she would fix it or make it better or just keep it as it is. And I have really good memories of just trying new food with my parents and my and all of my siblings, and then we would rate it and we would talk about it. Food would always come up as a conversation every single time.
That's amazing. And honestly, Planet M, I completely forgot about that place.
Yeah, it
I
was a
have
pretty
been to Planet M myself, and they used to have, the CD players where you could just they had the CDs that, were trending at that time, and you could go there, put the headphones on, and
yeah.
then select everything. Oh, wow, I completely forgot about that. That's yeah, actually, I have very similar memories of Planet M. It was a very cool concept back then. It was the coolest store to go to, and especially as well, like growing up, music was a very big part of me, and then when you pair that with your favorite food, you mentioned Haldiram. Yeah, I have a lot of amazing memories with Haldiram as well. So
What was your go-to thing to order when you would go there?
I love chole bhature. So for me, chole bhature was is hands down is like one of the best meals ever. And when
Yeah.
you mix that with some, glass of lassi, that's it. That's you done for the, rest of the day then. That's
Yeah,
and I've had the best naps with that combination as well. So if you're struggling to sleep, don't worry about taking any sleeping pills. Just have chole bhature with some lassi and you
probably
will
put
be
that on the
knocked out.
screen as a tip for this student.
Honestly, you will be knocked out. So, very similar experiences actually. So you mentioned your experience in Delhi growing up, and you completely reminded me of my time in India as well, because I had a very similar journey with going out with parents. Food was a big part. I mean, food is a big part of being an Indian, right? Because so much amazing food in India. And then when you pair that with the food that you get in Delhi, it's an amazing place to grow up in, I think.
What were your go-to spots in Delhi for however long you were there?
To be honest, I was very young when we were in Delhi, and then we moved to Chandigarh. So my memories is a bit more of the spots that we used to go to in Chandigarh because I was very, very young when we were in Delhi. But I have family in Delhi, so I've gone back as a lot older like person, and Haldiram is definitely one of those places we would go to.
Yeah.
I got exposed to Sarvana Bhavan for the first time in Delhi in Connaught
Oh,
Place as well.
yes, that was my dad's favorite
And,
place.
that was just amazing. That was like the best dosa I had at that time. And
Have
then
you
there's
tried
all
it?
these amazing street food there in Delhi, right? Like there's just hidden vendors. And if you go with a local, they just know the good spots.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wouldn't know where they took me because I was just following them. I'm like, yeah, take me where you
It's
want
one of
to.
those, if you know, you know, and
Yeah.
if you know, you should be glad you know because you're gonna have the best of your time. I also remember that once this was after I left, I think a momo wave hit Delhi and everybody just started having momos. So I unfortunately missed that wave, but I see that wave coming back in Toronto. So I'm also now exposed to different kind of momos or momo that people eat here, and people from Delhi, they've given me their local recommendations here as well. And they've said to me, like, it's street food in Delhi right now. There's always a momo place at every corner.
And is it true that the Delhi momos are slightly different to the actual momos? Like, do they put their own flavor in Delhi? Because I've seen it in a menu where it said specifically like Delhi momos.
It could be. I would not be the best person to answer that question, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I think, yes, they have their own twist and, fillings for everything. Had some with, like, their tandoori style. I've had some, Afghani style momos, which are more creamier, but yeah, I think they have their own twist to everything.
Yeah. I mean, the food seems amazing in India. So,
Yeah.
like when you decided that, okay, I'm going to venture out on my own, and then you pick London. I mean, London has great food. London is a great city, but it's a big contrast to Delhi, right? Delhi has so much noise, people. It's just a bustling city. And then you move to London. So, what was that like for you? And also the time when you were just about to leave Delhi, what was going through your mind? Because leaving home for the first time, I think, is always the hardest move because you've not done it before. It's the first time you're heading into the unknown. I remember doing that, and I was worried. I didn't know what was going to happen. There was
Yeah.
no like safety net, right? You're going in a new city to make it on your own,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of doubt. There's excitement. There's so many things going on. So, what was that like for you then when you decided that I'm going to go to London to study?
It was exciting. I was very excited to make that change. And for me, I would I consider myself very lucky with the move as well because my elder brother had already moved to the States 3 years prior. So I knew what the environment would look like and what it would feel like because I was on the other end before. But being on the other side where you're the one actually leaving, there's a mixed bag of emotions. You feel excited, you feel scared, you feel worried, you think about your parents and when you're going to leave home, they're going to be behind and you leave the nest. But one thing that I still remember is I had to keep reminding myself that this is going to be exciting and change is something that's very constant. So this is going to be a change, but you'll adapt. And I had my brother with me when I was moving to London. So that was obviously very helpful. But I was excited. I didn't have a preconceived notion of what the city would look like, how I would be, because I wanted to have some mystery. So I wanted to see, okay, what would I be like? What kind of person would I be? So I just went with the flow initially. I just wanted to see what I feel. I didn't want to talk to a lot of people about their experiences because I wanted to create one for myself. It was definitely something that was some people would be worried about because this was back into 2015, so you're quite young and you're in a different city where you don't know anyone. But I took that as a challenge and I said to myself, that's great. I don't know anyone. That means that I can be anyone. That means that I can get to know anyone that I want. And once you have that outlook, that really changes things for you because you look at everything through a lens of curiosity and not looking at everything through a lens of, oh, this is going to be a challenge. So that was a very important part. And yes, London was completely different from Delhi. There was a lot of difference, but I've always felt drawn to the city initially. And what I wanted to study, London was the best place where I could do that. Linguistics, which is the birthplace of English language. Where else would you go? And it really shaped me as a person of who I am right now. It really helped me understand how to build yourself, how to build connections, how to adapt to change, and how to just if something is going on and you want to build further and you want to build yourself, how will you do that? So London plays a very big role for me there.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, just remembering when I moved to London, it was very similar for me as well. I had never left home in that way before. And when I was leaving home, I knew for a fact that, this is it. Now I'm basically going out into the world
Yeah.
and to see what I can achieve and the experiences. Also, I didn't really, just like you, I didn't have a preconceived notion about what London would be like, what it would provide for me. I actually didn't really have many friends or anything because a lot of people I know who moved knew somebody here. So they had that sort of first contact where, they could go and someone just gives them all the cheat codes basically. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. So I was sort of figuring it out on my own as well. And that is a really good, I think it's good for your own development. I think it makes you a stronger and a better person.
Yeah, you're right there in the middle of the city trying to figure out how to get an Oyster card. You're trying to figure out how the buses work. You're trying to figure out which Pret to go to for the best coffee. These little things, they all make a difference. And I think once you get into the routine of it, once you figure out what you like, it just makes it ever more beautiful and much more easier.
Yeah.
I would like to know your opinion as well, but I have to keep reminding myself that I am here to build something. I'm here to upskill myself. There's a purpose for me here. And that purpose obviously keeps you going, but it's the routine that gives you momentum. It's the routine and the little rituals that you build throughout your day with yourself or with your friends or whoever you meet, maybe let's say your flatmates or your roommates, that keeps the momentum going.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you mentioned rituals, right? So what was it for you then? What did you do to make London your home or feel like home? And how long did that take for you when you first moved?
For me, rituals and routines, they played a really big part in creating a place home. And for London, I've had different meanings of what home feels and would be like for me, and I've embraced those different meanings in different phases of my life. But back in London, for me, home, it just meant the rituals and the routines that I had, which would be every morning I would get up, I would get ready for class, but I would have some time to myself in the morning where I would either go to the gym, I would read a book, and I would just be with myself. Then on my walk towards the campus, I would either grab a Pret or I would grab coffee from home, sit there. I'll always have that granola bar that you take a bite of, and then the entire thing just crumbles down on your lap. Like one, I think it's Nature Rallies. I would have one of those Nature Rallies granola bars with me, and we would go to class. And then after class, I remember there was a shawarma guy right next to our campus building. So that's where I was introduced to what actual shawarma looked, felt, and tasted like. So we would try and grab a shawarma there. Nando's was a very big part of my rituals with my friends. We would
Yep,
always
cheeky Nando's.
absolutely. And also King students would get a 15% discount at that particular place. So we would go to Nando's. Sometimes we would go to Oaxaca, which is a Mexican place in
Yeah, yeah,
London.
I've been to
One of
that
my
one. Yeah.
favorites there as well. Again, I was very grateful to have friends who were as passionate about food and as exploratory as I was. So we were always going to different cafes, different restaurants, different food markets to try different things. And then I would just come back, and then as you do what you do as a student, but my actual rituals would be built throughout the weekend where I would go and do Pilates, and this was like a decade ago. And now I know that Pilates has picked up, but at that time, a lot of people didn't know about what Pilates was. And I would do Pilates, and I would always do like a 1 or 2 hour session. This was mainly between when I did my undergrad and I was transitioning to my master's. So I had more time to myself. And I really wanted to dedicate that time into building habits, into getting more fit, into walking a lot. So I would walk to my studio. I would spend like 1 to 2 hours there. And after that, I would always have a protein bar in my back. So we graduated from a Nature's Valley to a protein bar there, and I would keep that with me. And I would always go to a different coffee shop. I remember this one time I went to Watch House, which is in, I think it's in around London Bridge, and they had recently opened up. So I saw that they had opened. I went into the shop and I sat there with my bar, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to order a coffee. I ordered a coffee. It was one of the most beautiful cafes that I had been to in a very long time. And it was very wooden. They had beautiful layout for a bakery. And I go up there and I walk towards the barista, and I'm like, this is what I want to order. Usually I would get an oat flat white. So I ordered that, and he's asking me questions. He's like, what kind of roast do you want? Do you want this? Do you want these kind of, do you want this kind of size? And I'm like, oh my God, that level of dedication. I really appreciated that. And then I ordered my coffee. I sat down with my book. He comes up to me, and he has a tray with the coffee, and I look down and I see a placard, and the placard has the notes of the coffee, the wash of the beans. And I just looked at it for 2 seconds. I think I still have a photo, and I was so impressed. And I was like, oh my God, like this is the level of, I love the dedication here. I love the experience of doing all of this. And with coming back to the ritual itself, it had become a habit for me to do my Pilates and then go walk around the neighborhood or go to a different neighborhood, grab a coffee in a place and just observe people there, see what they're doing, how one neighborhood coffee shop might be different from another neighborhood coffee shop. And then that's also one of the things that I did to explore the city more. I would just pick a coffee shop. I would go there, and then I would walk around and see what's happening there. So that ritual is something that I still actually till this date carry with myself. So whichever city that I go to, I have a ritual for myself where I would check out their coffee shops. I would go to different neighborhoods so that I can know more about the city, know more about the people, and what kind of place it is.
No, I think that's amazing because you've touched upon a few things there. So you've talked about the routine and rituals that help you make a new place feel at home. And then you've talked about those sensory anchors, whether that's food, coffee, and then also transitioning from the place you've come from to the place that you're at, because obviously the food scene in Delhi and food scene in London are very different. You know, you can get a pasta in Delhi, which would be a very Indian pasta, and then you will come to London and you'll get a pasta without that flavor. You know what I mean? And similar to, as you mentioned, like the coffee scene in London is very different to the coffee scene in India in general. I think it's changing now from what I've heard from friends. But back then, you know, it's mainly masala chai or different types of chai
Have
is
cafe coffee
preferred.
day. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So chai is probably more preferred there than coffee. And now people are really enjoying their coffee. There's a lot of, new cafes coming up and people are embracing that coffee, coffee culture.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think rituals play a really big part in making us feel at home because we are obviously in a new place. We don't have our similar connections when it comes to people. You're away from family. You're making new friends, and there's a lot of moments where it's just on your own and your thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have any what I call routine or rituals, then it can feel very lonely because all of a sudden you're just left there with your thoughts and you're trying to figure things out. And I don't know, days sometimes feel very long in those moments when you don't have things planned or you don't follow a set routine. So, for me, it was very similar when I moved to London. I would find coffee spots that I really enjoyed. So I've been to that watch house. I know we caught up a few times in London and went to some really nice coffee spots. I still remember, I think there was one, I think it was in Borough Market. It was like a hidden coffee shop behind Borough Market,
Yes.
which was I think it's still there now actually. I haven't been there in a long time.
Mhm.
But yeah, just finding these hidden coffee spots. Obviously, travel was a big motivation for me to move to London in the first place. So for me, doing every second or third weekend, I would just grab on a plane and go somewhere. And that was my weekend ritual. Like once a month, I'm getting on a flight to London. I don't care where it's going. I just want a change of scenery, do that travel life, and I would come back on a Sunday and then back to work on Monday. And then it would be really funny in Monday lunchtime talks or staff room talks. People would be like, "Yeah, how was your weekend?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, it was good. I was in Lisbon for the weekend." And they'll be like, "What? You went to Portugal just for a weekend?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not? It's only 2 hours by flight, so why not? Why would you not do that?" So that was my ritual, and I think as you keep doing that, you get into this groove where you feel like, oh, I'm settled now. This is starting to feel like home. And in that process, you also end up making friends who are also wanting to do the same things as what you want to do. And I think that's a very natural way to make friends, right? You just do what you want to do and then you meet people. And if you're enjoying the same things, and I think that obviously people also help a lot to make you feel comfortable in a place. And I don't know about how you found London, but I think people were very friendly when I moved to London. And there were a lot of people from all over the world which were in a very similar situation to us. So everybody was, trying to find themselves, but also find their own version of London that suited them. And I think it's a city that just offers things for everyone. If you want something, I think London has it for you and it can offer you.
Percent. You remember that quote that said that one can never get tired. If one is tired of London, they're tired of life.
I think it's true, actually. It's just the city has so much to offer, right? And it is quite an addictive city in that sense because not many cities can match that energy
Absolutely.
and also access to travel. If you're into arts and culture, there's the theater shows here are amazing.
Yeah.
And then also access to sports. If you're into sports, there's a lot of stuff that happens here. So yeah, it can, if you're used to this lifestyle, it can be a bit difficult. I'll touch upon that obviously in your next city when you move on. But before I leave London, you mentioned, you went through your routines to make it feel at home. And apart from that, was there anything else that was sort of like, this is my London life? Or, what was there maybe friends that also helped you settle in? Or you were very focused on your studies and, you had your goals? What was it like? How did you make yourself so motivated, obviously being on your own? Was it just a routine or was there something else as well that sort of helped you through that?
100%. I think there needs to be a very good balance between your routines, your social life, and your motivation. If I was just focused on my goals and if I was just focused on my studies, I wouldn't have been able to meet people, including you. So it's very important to have a good balance of social life, hobbies. Like you said, that your passion and your ritual was to travel. So it really takes you away from the life that you have here, and so that you can go here, do something here, and then that will have a positive effect on this section of your life. So my social life, whatever friends that I had in London, they really enriched my life in a way that all the quadrants of my life would feel much more warmer and much more happier. So if I had just a great meal with a friend or a coffee with a friend, I would just be that ever more motivated to work on that project or vice versa. Or if I had a really good trip, I remember this was at the peak of our exams, and my then friend comes to me and she said, "I want to go to Bath." And I'm like, "We have an exam tomorrow." Like, I saw a picture and it looks beautiful, and she hadn't been. So we're like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." We booked a ticket in the next hour, and the next thing you know, we're on the bus to Bath. And we had a amazing time at Bath where we were going through the town, we were talking to people, we were going through little tiny markets, and when I came back, I was so refreshed to work on whatever I was working on. And that was a great break. Just like you said, that you would go to Lisbon over the weekend. And when you come back on a Monday, it just feels better because you focused on that part of your life that enriched another part of your life. So it's really important to have that balance. And apart from, I would say, my routines, my social life, and any hobby that I would pick up, these three things would be the main thing that I can think of on top of my head right now in London that really helped me build that feeling.
That's awesome. And before we finish your London chapter, if you had to pick a song that reminds you of your London days or songs,
Mhm.
what would it be? Or what other songs?
There is a Taylor Swift album that had released, Lover, and this was back in 2019. I think that album, I listened to that album a lot when I was leaving the city. So that I have really good memories with that album. And this is going to sound very funny, but there's one particular summer where that Bollywood song, that Coca-Cola 2 song,
Yeah.
like, that song
Yeah.
it raved in my head the entire year, and when my friend would play it on repeat every single time. So that song is right there.
So if you ever listen to this song, you're instantly just taken back to your days in London, then I'm guessing.
And I have a smile on my face, so it does the job.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how music has that power, right? Like it can just transport you, take you back to a memory. And sometimes you don't realize that you actually have that memory stored away.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
you just reminded me of Planet M. I completely forgot about that thing. And
Yeah.
it's crazy how you have all these memories and sometimes you just need a sensory anchor to sort of trigger that, whether it's food,
Yeah.
fragrance, or, music. For
Yeah.
me, I think every phase of my life, I think there has been some song or, there's music that I can be like, oh, actually, I remember the song. I was actually living here or
Yeah.
this was going around happening in my life or I remember being very stressed out for exams. I mean, I was one of those weird people that had to listen to music to study.
Mhm.
But, people say if you listen to music with lyrics, then it's quite difficult to concentrate. But it wouldn't affect me really, to be honest. I would listen to very heavy lyrical songs, sometimes quite intense music. Intense in the sense like emotionally very intense.
Yeah.
And sometimes I remember doing group studies with my friends, and sometimes I would like just put the songs on a speaker, and they would be like, "Why are you listening to this depressing song?" Or "Why are you listening to heartbreak songs? We have a physics exam tomorrow. We need to like." And but that would be my sort of something that would put me in the zone. So it's interesting how music has that effect because if one of those songs ever played randomly, or I went into a restaurant and they're playing a song, then would take me back instantly to that time where I'm like, oh my, I remember being very stressed out.
That's incredible. Was it the mood that put you in focus when you were studying? It's a heartbreak song. Does it get you in that intense mood that you're like,
The thing
okay,
is, yeah, it's weird. I think it was more the tempo of the music. I just couldn't listen to anything fast because then I would be like, I would want to just dance or just think
yeah,
about other things. So I think it was more the tempo that I really, really liked. The lyrics didn't really bother me because, not like whatever I was listening to, I was going through in life. It just happened to be that those type of slow songs just got me really focused,
yeah,
which is really weird, to be honest.
absolutely. It's funny how you mentioned sensory anchors and fragrances. That has played a very big role in my life as well. So whenever I would smell a particular perfume or a particular scent, I would instantly be transported back to that city or that time or place. And fragrance has played a very crucial part in my life till this date. I hold those memories associated with the fragrances very close to my heart. So for me, fragrances are as important as a song or a food when it comes to anchors that take you back.
Definitely. So any particular fragrance that's, associated with London, your days in London?
Yes, it is a perfume that I've had since in my collection since decades. It's the Armani C, and I have used it every single day of my life. And whenever I smell it, I get taken back to my student life. But my friend had a perfume. It's the Burberry Her, and whenever she used to walk past, I used to smell it on her, and I'm like, Mariam, this is such a beautiful. And then she gifted it to me when I was in LA. And whenever I smell that perfume, it reminds me of my time that I had with her, and it reminds me of my time that I had in London and in LA in like particular moments. So I keep, even though I don't wear that perfume now, but I keep it in my collection because sometimes I just want to open the cap, smell it, be transported back to that time, and then I come back and I'm back here.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I've had that feeling where a fragrance reminds you of either a friend or a family member, and you smell it on someone else, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually, I remember this is, and then it just reminds you of the time with that person. So that's definitely true. All right, let's wrap up the London, and now on to the next big city, which is LA. I've not lived in LA. I've just been there once in summer, and I really loved the energy of the city. I think it was a pretty cool city. And, growing up, we played Grand Theft Auto a lot.
Yeah.
So we had done all these missions, which is based around LA, with different neighborhoods and stuff. So I just felt like I was in a video game because I'm like, oh, I know this street, or I know this building, or I know this beach. And it was just such a weird experience to be finally like walking those streets and driving through the areas. And we went around the time where, that film Straight Outta Compton.
Mhm.
So that had just come out as well, which is obviously Compton is a neighborhood in LA. And, all the artists that went famous came from that neighborhood, which was quite a rough neighborhood back in the days. So I remember this moment as well. We were in a taxi getting driven to Venice Beach, and the taxi driver was like, yeah, I'm going to play the songs from this film. And he really fit the image as well, right? He was sort of dressed up in a very hip hop attire, had like gold chains. And then we were literally listening to one of the songs from the film while driving past Compton. And I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, LA, I think, has a really cool energy. But I want to hear about, obviously, your experience leaving London, integrating into LA. And I know it happened around COVID. So obviously, that would be the caveat that it probably wasn't the usual LA experience. And you probably found yourself locked inside in a city which is known for its sunshine, which probably makes it even harder to be inside when, the sun is out and you just want to be outside or, be by the beach. So how was that like?
LA was quite an experience, and it was an experience nothing like I had experienced before because of COVID and because of lockdown. So I just moved in 3 months shy of when the lockdown had hit the city. It was, if I had to pick a word to describe LA, I I would say there was a lot of change. LA was a lot about change because there I was, a person who thought I was very set in my routines, I was very set in my ways, the kind of coffee that I would like, the kind of food that I would like. And then you move into the city, and I was very grateful because my brother lives in LA. So I got a chance to live with him during that time as well. And I wasn't alone, which was, now you look back, it was really important. But I moved into the city thinking that I got this, like I've done this before. How hard can this be? And I move in, and then the whole world just comes to a pause. And then there you are, as you mentioned before, sometimes you're there with your thoughts, and sometimes you don't have those means for the routines and the rituals that you've created for yourself. So what do you do then? What do you do when it's just you and your thoughts in a room? And I think at that time, whilst everything was going on, so I started in LA, I was a student first. So I had classes still going on. I was trying to adapt to the new digital world and trying to form relationships online with my classmates, with my teachers, everything. And then you really sit down and you think to yourself, if home was a place, or if home was a person or people, and now you're there inside a room and you don't have that place and you don't have those people anymore, what do you do? So again, you have to relearn your own definitions, and you have to kind of go back on your life's whiteboard and think that I thought this was working for me, but now it's not. So what do I do then? So again, I had to embrace a different meaning of home for me, which is now a meaning that I still carry with myself. Is home had become a feeling more than anything else, a feeling that I carried with myself. It was a feeling of solace, a feeling of comfort, a feeling of safety that I carry with myself to the state. And wherever I am, with whoever I am, if I have that feeling, I feel like home. And LA really played a big part for me there because it gave me that time and that space to really go deep in my head and realize, okay, what kind of a person do you want to be? What is home for you if it's not people, if it's not the food that you can cook because you can't go out and get the groceries. So it's really the little things. And then you sit with yourself, and then you think about what does initially home, how does home feel? And then you try to recreate that feeling within yourself. And once you have that, you can recreate that feeling anywhere. So initially, LA was a lot about that. It was a lot of, without going into the minutiae of things, LA was a lot about rewiring myself to adapt to the changing world. But after that, once lockdown was out and people were out and about, it was sunshine and rainbows for me. I was out at the water. I was again back into my cafe hopping. I was looking at I was going around. I met people. I had my routines and my rituals for that specific city. And I also got a chance to foster two cats. So they play a really big part in my LA chapter of my life. And it was a different time, but altogether it helped me be the person that I am now. Again, and when the thing about LA is that everybody is accepted there. You will meet a different person. You can walk 5 steps and the other person you meet will be very different from the person that you met before. And it's just everybody's so chatty. They're so accepting. It's very different from London. People were nice in London, I agree, but they're very reserved. They're very calm.
It's the weather, I think. It's the weather. It
It
just
is
makes us.
it's the same in Toronto. In LA, everybody's chatty. I remember I went to Trader Joe's for the first time, and the cashier there, she's like, "Oh my God, how are you? How's your day going? I love your top." And she's like asking me about myself and my history, my family. I'm like, I was not used to that.
Yeah.
I was not used to that, and it took me a while. And I love how accepting and how welcoming people were in LA. It really made a difference.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot more chilled out than London, right? Maybe because it's by the coast, the sun is out, and it's also quite widespread as a city, right? So depending on where you are, it can feel very different because I think LA is made up of a lot of small suburbs, and it's I think one of the most like widespread cities in the world from what I've read about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you touched on the whole COVID thing, right? Because everybody dealt with COVID very differently. I know some people really, really excelled and either became very fit or reinvented themselves or became entrepreneurs. Personally, for me, it wasn't the best because I struggled. I couldn't find that routine that worked for me. I'm not a person that does really well being indoors.
Mm.
And obviously, I couldn't travel. So all of a sudden, the person that I had built up myself to be, because I was traveling, I was out meeting up people a lot. I had a very active lifestyle. I was doing dance classes, I was going to the gym, I was playing sports, and I couldn't do any of these things, right? We were just stuck inside. I think it took me a while to kind of find my way of surviving through that. And I think honestly, there could be a spin off podcast series about people's experiences through COVID. And that could be because that's just a whole new thing.
Not so global citizen.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's literally just what did you do? How did you survive that? And it's unreal that we have to go through that. But yeah, as you mentioned, when things opened up, you really enjoyed LA, you enjoyed the sunshine. What's the coffee scene there like? Because obviously America coffee, just I wouldn't rank it as one of the top places for coffee destinations. But yeah, I'm curious to find out what the coffee scene is like in LA.
My coffee experience in LA was quite varied, but also Korean cafe culture had started to pick up a lot in LA. LA has the largest population of Koreans after Korea itself. So there's a lot of influence of Korean restaurants, Korean culture, Korean cafes, and the neighborhood that I lived in was very close to Koreatown. So I think I had a good opportunity where I was already immersed in that coming up culture of the Korean cafes where everything is very aesthetic, it's very light, it's very refreshing. But the American coffee culture, I would say it took me a while to get used to it because every time I would have something and I would compare it to something that I had back in London, I was like, it's not the same. It's not that smooth feeling. It's just not the
Yeah.
same until I had Blue Bottle. So that was my brother's recommendation initially, and he told me to try it out, and I tried it. And I would say that one of the best coffees that I've had in LA is, well, they have chains all over the world except for Toronto. But one of the best coffees I've had is in a Blue Bottle would be the one, and it just became
Awesome. I'm gonna keep
uh,
that in mind.
do they have a I think it's called a spice latte. I might be wrong, but they put cardamom powder and orange blossom syrup in it, and it just blew my mind. It was so
Wow.
different from anything I've ever had, and I tried to recreate it at home. It wasn't the same, but I did my best. So I would say, yeah, Blue Bottle was one of the best places.
And what about food?
Food, um, let me think. Fusion. I have noticed there's a lot of fusion in LA. All of the restaurants that I've been to, there would be a fusion of different kind of cuisines. So LA really opened up my palate. I would say my choices in food were very reserved and safe in London because we had our pet places and we would experiment with food markets. But LA, I really allowed myself to explore as many cuisines as I could because there was the opportunity to little, let's say, chefs from Michelin restaurants would start their own small little restaurants in different neighborhoods across LA, and they would have fusion cuisines or food that you've not heard of before. And one of the examples is the name is slipping my head, but it's an Italian Indian fusion. So
Wow.
they had yeah, it was great. They had masala dosa rings and they had Indian flavors but on a pizza, but in a very nice way. And the name I can't think of it right now, but if I'll let you know later. But it was such a beautiful burst of flavors in my mouth and it was a very amazing experience. Korean food is really big in LA. So I've had a lot of Korean barbecues. My friends have introduced me to a lot of like sweet, spicy, sour soups. And again, I found myself exploring the city through restaurants, through cafes. Sushi is great in LA. I've had one of the best sushis in LA. Kazunori is a great spot for sushis. So I would say LA food scene has been great. You can find anything that you want. And whether it's a vendor that's across the street or if it's a restaurant, the food is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I have some good memories regarding the food in LA as well. So I love Mexican food.
Yeah,
So I think the best, I've never been to Mexico. So the closest I think I've been is LA.
yeah,
And I just remember having some amazing Mexican food there. And honestly, one of the places was like a little shed and there's no space to like sit. Basically, you just go order.
yeah,
The person who's taking the order is the only one who can speak English as well.
yeah. Sometimes
And
you don't
then
even do that. Sometimes you just have
yeah.
to
And
sit
then there
there.
were like three ladies in the kitchen, a very small kitchen, bringing like preparing burritos as fast as possible. It was just burritos. But I think that's the best burrito I've had in my life. It was amazing.
Yeah,
And I think we
it's
went back again. So we ended up going to the same place twice. That's how good it was.
yeah,
So I do remember having really nice food. And just the sunshine there was amazing. Just walking along Venice Beach. Yeah. I think that was my favorite spot in LA. For the
yeah.
short time we had there, we really enjoyed that area.
Did you get a chance to visit the market there?
I don't think so. I think we were just so obsessed with the weightlifting gym
Yes,
and the basketball court. So we
yes.
were just people watching and there was so many bulky, guys and girls just like super fit lifting weights and doing all sorts of like acrobat things. And I think they just do it for the people that coming to the beach.
Yeah, they're just out there having fun, and that makes all the difference. There, you see somebody who's skateboarding, somebody's lifting weights, they're
Yeah.
doing athletics. It's a really, it's a really
It did
good
feel
time.
like we were in a Hollywood film because
Yeah,
You just I wasn't used to seeing those things, and when I went to LA, I hadn't really traveled much as well. That was one of my first trips with my friends, and we spent about, 3 weeks in America going to all different cities. So I was just like, wow, this is very different to where I'm living right now, and the lifestyle looks very different, and I still stays with me that memory of just walking along that beach around sunset. We ended up renting some bicycles, and we just kept cycling along that beach.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you travel, do you usually try to look for touristy spots, or do you try to look for local spots or get local recommendations? How does it work for you?
I would do both, I think, because obviously touristy spots are touristy for a reason. And when you are a tourist in that city, there's no shame in going to touristy spots. But then I would make the visit about the actual attraction I'm going to see. And I would probably avoid having food around those places. And when it comes to food, then I would go to more local spots.
It's a good
So I
strategy.
wouldn't I wouldn't do food near touristy places.
Yeah,
Definitely take off the big touristy attractions that you want to see in a city, but then find your local spots. And I think now with the internet, it's just so amazing to find good spots, Like Google reviews is one of my best friends now. I put a place on Google and just go through, the reviews and everything. And now you can put photos as well. So you
yeah.
can see the food you're gonna get. because we've all been there. We've not seen what the food or the dish looks like, and we order it, and it's not what we expected, and then
100%.
it's just a big disappointment, right? So I just don't want to risk it.
Yeah. Like, I'm here for a short time. I have to make it
Yeah,
worthwhile.
yeah, and especially I have dietary requirements, right? I'm vegetarian, so I just have to be very, very sure what I'm getting, if I'm gonna
Mm.
enjoy it or not. But yeah, with now internet, Google, I think traveling has just become so much easier.
LA would have been a good spot for you because they cater to all sort of dietary requirements, and they're
Yeah, it
very
was.
yeah. I think it's one of the cities that I've seen that they're really good with catering to dietary requirements. It could be gluten-free, dairy-free, vegetarian, vegan, you'll get all sorts of things. I don't think London was there yet, and even in Toronto right now, it's a bit harder, but LA, you can mix things, you can add things, you can subtract things, and they wouldn't bat an eye. They like
That
it.
sounds great. That sounds really good. Okay, so you've had 3 years now in LA, right? So you've basically gone through the whole journey of LA. You've embraced the food culture there. You probably made some new friends there. You found your coffee spots. And I think this happens to a lot of people after the 2 to 3 year mark when they get very comfortable in a city. They start getting like itchy feet and then they're already looking for their next city. So in your case, was that the case, or like did you just have a really good opportunity in Toronto with work and you just took that on?
With me, it has always been I've always tried to upskill myself in any way or shape. And wherever I see an opportunity to do that, I grab it. Whether that is a different city, whether that is a different country, whether that is a different skill set. So I was speaking to my dad the other day and we were just reflecting on the previous years. And he said something and I wrote it down. I'm going to quote him. And he said that he's talking to me and he's like, on the basis of my knowledge, I'm exploring the world. So he was talking to me and he said that somehow on the basis of your knowledge, you have explored the world. And for me, that has always been the case, whether that is I want to gain more education experience or work experience, or I just see an opportunity where I know that I can upskill myself. I always get curious about it and I grab that opportunity. London was no different. LA was no different. Toronto was also no different. So my goal has always been I will go wherever my career takes me, or I will go wherever I find the next best opportunity to make myself a better person. And that's how Toronto happened as well. I found an opportunity that I thought was the perfect step for me to upskill myself to go that next step in my career. LA was a lot about just trying different things, seeing what sticks, understanding what I'm good at, what skills can I bring to the table, and then just honing that. And then Toronto was, I found this opportunity. Let's do it. Did I think about the weather? I did for like 2 seconds. There was a bit of hesitance, but I would say I do enjoy colder seasons more than warmer ones. So I remember, sorry, I have to go back to LA here to, I love the weather there. No complaints at all. I
I mean,
love
it's amazing.
100%. But sometimes it would get so hot and my place didn't have AC. So I would literally be with like tubs of ice cubes. With just imagine me and my 2 cats. We're just sitting there with like 2 fans on our head. And I'm just like, when will this heat wave be over? So I prefer to be cold than hot. So that did come into my head when I was thinking about Toronto. But I was like, okay, this is going to be, we can do a little bit of snow now. I think we're done with sunshine for some time.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my first question. Like, how did you give up on all that sunshine to go to Toronto's extremes weather? I mean, it's 40 degrees in summer. It's like minus 20 in winter. It's not for everyone that
No.
weather. So
You know, it's an adjustment, but I think it's because also I prefer colder
yeah,
weather and it's just easier that way. But that's not me saying that I will when the weather it's right now it's -7, but it feels like -15.
wow,
So that feels like really makes all the difference
yeah,
here. The wind just gets on your face and you're like, why did I leave the house right now? But
yeah.
you just got to be packed. You need to have your winter jacket. You need to have your boots because it's snowing. You need to be prepared. But one thing that I would say is Toronto winters, I would say everybody needs to come to Toronto during the summertime. People talk about how cold it is and how wild the winters are, but the summer it's that much more exciting because everybody's just happy. Like, they've got their vitamin D, their serotonin levels are high, they're out and about. It's just it's a bustling city. People are out, there are festivals going on. So, even when I had my brother come from LA and he was in Toronto for the summer, and he was like, "I love this." Like, it's very similar to what you would get in London or what you would get in LA. So, I know that Toronto gets a bad rep for winters, but I would really recommend and I would really suggest people do see this city in the summers because it's definitely a different experience altogether.
It's funny you mentioned that, right? Because I went to Toronto to study actually for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I specifically chose the winter semester because I wanted to see snowfall. I had this obsession with living in a city and experiencing snow, putting on my best winter wardrobe and just, like I like the winter wardrobe to be honest. I like putting on scarves and having a nice coat and just the whole vibe. I really like it. And people were telling me, you are crazy. You're leaving summer behind to go to winter. And then by the time you come back, you're going to have another winter. So you're signing up to basically 12 months of winter. But I was passionate about, I was like, I'm going to see my snow. No one's going to take that away from me. And I'll share this story with you actually. I tell everybody whenever I'm sharing my experience about Toronto. I think it was my second or third day. And the first 2 days, it was January as well. So first 2 days, it was about 5 degrees or 4 degrees, and it was very overcast. So it wasn't the usual really cold Toronto days. And I was used to that. The third day, I woke up and I look outside and it's sunny, not a single cloud. And, this was when smartphones were not really not everybody had it. And I had a very small smartphone. I think it was made by maybe I'm saying maybe Google, but I'm not sure. It was like an Android smartphone, very small screen. And it wasn't like people were getting up to check the temperature every day, right? And normally, like these days, people are always checking the temperature if it's going to rain, and then they'll decide what to wear and then step out, right? I just saw the sun is out, and I thought, yeah, it's probably around the same temperature as it was yesterday. So I just put on like a couple of layers, put on my puffy jacket, and I just like went out. And I kid you not, within 5 seconds of stepping out, I had to run back inside because it was the coldest temperature I'd ever experienced in my life. And I took my phone out and it was minus 15.
My
But
days.
I was not used to that because I'm seeing the sun is out
You got
and
to
it just
see.
looked like an amazing day. So I had to put on 2 or 3 more layers, had to find every single thing I had in my wardrobe to like warm me up.
Yeah.
And one thing that nobody talks about moving places is all the admin you end up doing. So I had to open up a bank account. And like Toronto banking is not very straightforward. And I'm sure it still hasn't really changed. It's nothing like, I think, London or some other places where it's very streamlined. So it was still very old school. I had to physically go into the branch, take all my documents. It was about a 15-minute walk. I remember doing that walk with all the clothes I had on me, but I still wasn't like covering up my face because I didn't have anything to cover my face. And when I got to the bank, this lady was like, good morning, sir. How can I help you? I couldn't talk because my face had just frozen. And she noticed that and she's like, sir, are you okay? I was just like, give me a moment. Like, I can't speak. So I literally had to sit down, like, get my body temperature up again. And that was just, yeah, you have to experience it. Or you shouldn't experience it. I just ended up experiencing it by mistake. But I wasn't ready for that. I was a 19-year-old,
Yeah.
first time leaving home to study, never been in a place like that. And it's just, yeah, it kind of literally like blew me away how cold it was.
I empathize with you. I'm so sorry you had to go
Yeah.
through that. That's why the first thing that people tell you right here, right now, is whenever you come to Toronto, you come to Canada, you have to invest in a winter jacket. You have to invest in some snow boots because you will not be able to survive. I have seen people fight against the wind because it's so cold. I have been the person who has nothing to cover their face. So I have like a red nose and my eyelashes would be frozen. So I would have snow on my eyelashes. It's that cold, and I 100% agree with you. Nobody really talks about the admin stuff that you have to do when you move into a new country or a city. Just on a lighter note, we know when obviously everybody has a different definition of home, but I would just say home is where I know if I'm working in Celsius or if I'm working in Fahrenheit. Home is where I know what the voltage is going to be so that I don't blow up my appliances or I have a travel adapter to myself. So those little things, they really make a lot of difference. And unfortunately, the banking experience is still the same. I still had to physically go and sort everything out and make sure that I have a bank account, make sure that I have a working Wi-Fi, make sure that I have electricity, water, everything else. So yeah, those admin tasks, they really take a toll on you.
And they never show that in films. Like they always, you watch a film, someone's moving and they're having the best time of their life, and they never show them doing all this paperwork, admin, and that just drains you sometimes. It's just,
Yeah.
but yeah, if anybody's watching or listening to this podcast and you are thinking of moving, do factor all the admin that you have to do.
Yeah. I
But
think
don't let that put you off, though, I think.
absolutely not. It's just you will get through it. I think the best part is also, and you might relate to this as well, is you really get into a habit of trying to visualize your whole life in 23 or 32 kg allowance of luggage. It's really, it gets, the more you do it, the more easier it gets. Or the more you do it, the better you get at it. So it feels like it's easier. And now the person that I was when I first moved to London, and all the admin stuff that I had to do was much more harder. Now I prepare myself mentally. I'm like, okay, there's a checklist here. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to go here. Thankfully, I moved to Toronto in summer, autumn, so the weather was not that bad. But I cannot even imagine people who've moved, let's say, last month.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're
Wouldn't
a
recommend it to anyone.
you have, there was a polar vortex couple of weeks ago, and it was crazy. I'm just like, this is the day when I decide to stay in the warmth of my house.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that, right? So I think especially when you keep moving or you've moved a few times and you just take that home feeling with you, and it doesn't matter where you are, whether it's in volts or it's degrees or Fahrenheit, as you mentioned, right? It's also kind of dangerous because any day you could be like, you know what, I'm going to pack up and I'm going here. And then you're just so comfortable with, I can make home anywhere I go because I know, what I need to do to make it home. And I think the drawback of that is that you lose that connection that sometimes you can have if you've stayed in a city for a long time. Like some of my friends, are still in the city that they grew up in, and they've formed quite deep connections with obviously the people that are around them because the friendships have just grown, as they've grown in that same city. Whereas you might still have friendship or friends in different cities, but it's quite kind of hard to manage that with different time zones, right? Like you know that when you see them, you'll still be the same, and you can pick up that friendship, and those are the best friends, right? Like you might be talking to them after a year or seeing them after 2 years, but you can just pick up where you left off. But it's also like it's quite difficult to manage those friendships across different time zones, and that's another thing people probably don't factor that in initially, and then as you go through these different moves and different cities, you realize that actually, like, there is a lot that you are also giving up chasing what you are chasing that you want from your life.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree that with you there. It's always one of those things where when you move, and then it's almost you reminisce the people that were a part of your life back then. And it's hard to, as you very rightly put into words, that you have depth with people, it's really hard to get that again and again if you're moving in a span of, let's say, 3 years, 5 years, because these relationships, they take time. They take time, they need to be nurtured, and you need to really focus on the quality of it. And the more deep the relationships are, the stronger they get. But I've also realized that some of the deepest relationships I've had with people, I've only been with them physically for, let's say, 3 months or 6 months. And it's the effort that we put in each other when we are away or when there is distance. That's what matters. So yes, it's hard to live a life like this where you are moving and then you're leaving those people behind. But it's very beautiful to put in that effort and show that person, hey, I still want to be a part of your life in whatever shape or form, whether that's by sending voice notes or whether that's by calling someone or whether that's by sharing your Instagram stories. So that also makes a lot of difference because it shows you what relationship really matters. Like, which is the relationship you will stay up till 2 a.m. because that's their 5 p.m. and that's just the time that worked for both of you? What is the relationship that you would randomly send a voice note to because you saw something and it reminded you of them? What is the relationship that you both are just on a FaceTime call and you're talking to each other, and after that you're just doing your own thing, and but the presence just makes that much beautiful. So what I have realized in my life is, yes, it's very hard. It's still hard for me to And if my friends back home in India, if they're listening, I know it's very hard. It's very hard for me to make time for them as well and like catch them up to whatever is happening or in any city. But I also appreciate the little efforts that we put in, whether that's checking in, shooting in a small message, or sometimes I look at their stories and I'm like, oh my God, you're doing this. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. My friend the other day, we ran a full marathon. I'm like, let's go. Like, that's amazing. You see these people do so much with their life, and that also creates depth. You see these people, they put intention in meeting you and in spending time with you, and I think that makes more of a difference than being physically in the same space. Technology has made it a little easier to still have that depth while even if you're miles apart. I think your podcast is a very good example of that as well. You're reconnecting with people who were in your some years of your past life, and now you're reconnecting with them, and that's amazing because that proves that no matter how far you are, you'll still find reasons to connect with people again.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to people wanting to make that effort, right? So if you are moving from one city to another, I guess it's a very natural way of filtering your friends as well. Because if somebody wants to be your friend, they will make that effort. And also, you will also make that effort if you haven't spoken to someone and you're missing them, or you listen to a song, or you smell a fragrance, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, actually, I haven't spoken to this person. I'm gonna make them a call." But it's also interesting that we live in a day, we live in a time where it's quite easy to connect with people, but at the same time, we're quite reluctant to make those phone calls because I think everyone is so busy. They're all caught up in their own life. We are living in a very, very busy life now because then, there's so much to do. And, you just go through this like digital, what do you call it? Like exhaustion basically, because you're bombarded with notifications all the time. There's social media. There's so much content on TV. There's just too much of everything now, right? But at the same time, it's pretty easy to just pick up a phone and do a WhatsApp call or a FaceTime. But yet we are still very reluctant because of, I don't know, we're just busy or occupied. I'm myself, sometimes I'm struggling to make those calls. And then I'm thinking, oh man, I haven't spoken to this person in a very long time. And then I still wouldn't make that call because I'm like, oh, I got to do this next thing because we fill
Mhm.
up our calendars, or we're just busy with doing things. So I think for me, when I was thinking about starting this podcast, it was a great way to then reconnect with obviously my friends and people I've had in experiences with in previous cities, and then also just share everyone's stories because I feel like especially people like us who've lived in few years in each city and have moved on, I think we have stories that can inspire a lot of other people if they're in the position of you're thinking of leaving home for the first time, or you're in your second city and you're settled and now you're getting scared. Oh, do I want to leave everything behind now and start all over again? And maybe someone's actually thinking of going back to their original city or whatever the situation is. So I think the point of the podcast is to just have a conversation, reach out to your old friends, see how they're doing, hear all these stories out there. And then it's also, I think, it's just refreshing to just see people connecting and talking, and anybody listening to the podcast can be like, oh, yeah, actually, I've had a very similar experience with Planet M in India in the 90s and the 2000s. Or I remember the momos craze in Delhi, and I remember this place in Delhi did really good momos, for example. And there's so many other things that, when you were sharing your stories, I was thinking in my head, oh, actually, I remember going through this thought process myself, whether I was in London or I was transitioning from London back to Melbourne. And, the admin side, there's just so much that goes right. And I
Yeah,
think as humans, or where we are right now, we're always just looking at the next thing, but we don't just pause and reflect back and look at the journey we've taken. Like just reflecting back to like this episode right now and your journey from Delhi. You mentioned Raj Kachori as one of your first food things. And then to go through that transformation or transition, or just transforming your palate to then having all this fusion food in LA, right? Like when you were in Delhi, you couldn't have even thought of like you're going to evolve this way and take on this journey where you're going to be living in these big cities. Like these are some really big cities in the world, right? London, LA, Toronto. People dream about just living in one of them, and you've done four, right? Because Delhi is also like, obviously you grew up there, but Delhi is not an easy city, right? And Delhi, I think, is a city that makes you street smart. Like you need to know what you're doing.
it
Otherwise,
does.
you're not going to survive in Delhi. So I think that foundation obviously really helped you. And then every city that you've lived in, you've picked up something which has made you even stronger, more confident. And then who knows, right, where next journey will be. So maybe after Toronto, you're like, oh, actually, yeah, maybe I want to go to this part of the world or I want to do this. And because you've had that experience and you know how you can create a home in a new city, I think it's really inspiring. And that's what I wanted to do with this podcast is, if there are people there wanting to go out from their comfort zone, whether it's studying, working, or just pursuing that dream passion that they have, they
Mm,
can do it. Obviously, you just need to know how you can create that home for yourself to
yeah.
feel safe when you're in an unfamiliar city or environment.
I couldn't have said it in any better way. That's such a beautiful conclusion to this entire conversation. One thing that stood out to me was when you mentioned that it's so hard to just stand for some time and reflect on whatever you've done. And I think this podcast is a very good way to do that because it's allowing me to sit down, really reflect on the journey that I have been and hear the journey that you've been through. And it's wonderful that you've made this platform here because a lot of people, what we do sometimes is we share our success stories with people. And what we forget to mention is the process, the different paraphernalias that we need, or the little details that lead you to this moment. And this podcast is one of those very good example of just discussing the process of things. Of it's not always like it's not a linear graph. There's going to be like ebbs and flows of life. You're going to be down, then you're going to get up again. You're going to be down again. You have to figure out voltage. You're going to get outside and you're going to realize you're freezing, so you have to come back and you're going to make that mistake and then you're going to do it again. So that process is what makes the journey that much human. And instead of just focusing on, oh, I did this is more about I did this, but I also did this, and all of this that led to this big thing.
No, that's absolutely right. And I've got a church bell ringing. I don't know if you
Yeah,
can hear that,
that's beautiful. That's
but
beautiful.
it's a great segue into our next, which is the rapid fire. So I guess I couldn't have timed it even any better, to be honest.
It's the bells of
So I've drafted some fun questions to end this podcast. I mean, honestly, we could keep chatting because there's so much more that we could talk about, but I do need to wrap up this podcast. And I've got a fun set of questions that I'm going to throw at you. Don't think about it too much. It's just whatever comes to your mind. Just go for it. Cool. Are you ready? I'm going to have a little sip. All right, let's get into it. First one, a traditional masala chai in Delhi or a London flat white?
A London flat white.
Nice.
I do make a very good masala chai, though, I would tell.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would.
masala chai, I think as I'm getting older, I am appreciating chai more. Like growing up, I did not like chai. I was very
Right.
much coffee person.
The only reason why I like chai right now is because of my friends here. They love their masala chai, so I make it for them, but I love a good coffee always.
Nice, nice. Delhi street food or LA fusion?
Delhi street food.
Street food. I mean, it's hard to beat Delhi street food.
No,
Like, yeah, I agree with that.
still there with Chori.
If you're feeling homesick, what are you cooking at home?
I usually, when I feel homesick, I don't cook at home. I go to a tried and tested Indian restaurant and I would have food there.
And what's your go-to then? What would you order?
Any sort of butter chicken or chef's special chicken
Nice.
with a garlic naan and dal makhni if they have. Very few restaurants here have rajma chawal, but my go-to comfort food is rajma chawal with a lot of ghee on it.
I mean, you've just hit the nail there, right? Like Delhi butter chicken obviously is where, butter chicken comes from Delhi, I think. And then, yeah, dal makhni, garlic naan, you just can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I mean, the last episode, we literally were talking about dal makhni for 5 minutes.
That's amazing.
So, dal makhni holds a special place in all our hearts. Cool. London Underground or LA traffic?
London Underground. The best transportation system that I've ever experienced in any of the cities. London Underground just takes the win.
What was your favorite tube line, if you had one?
Oh gosh, is it this gray, the Jubilee line, the silver
Yes.
line? The
Yes.
best one here.
Yeah. So, there's a new one now called Elizabeth, which is,
I heard the purple one. Is it the
it's got
purple one?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
got air conditioning. It's really fast.
Oh,
It goes
wow.
through all the central destinations really fast. But yes, before Elizabeth, I would say Jubilee is probably the best one as well. I think it was the newest. What is that one thing that has traveled with you in all your moves, or something that you would just always pack in your suitcase if you decided to move tomorrow?
Like an
There's-
essential?
Anything that this has to be with you, that when you're traveling, or I guess when you're moving. More when you're moving.
I have a folder of little cards, tidbits that I have collected throughout my travels. Either it's a bus ticket or a train ticket or a ribbon or anything, a card that my friends have given to me or I've picked it up from somewhere. And I have a folder of it now. It's a pretty hefty folder, and I carry that folder everywhere that I go.
That's really nice. That's super sweet. All right, next one. The intense heat of Delhi summer or the crisp, biting snow of Toronto winter?
The snow.
Yeah, I mean the
The
Delhi
snow.
summer is
Yeah, it's
crazy.
not just summer. It's sweaty and it's hot, and
Yeah,
not every place is equipped. So the snow.
yeah. I made the mistake of going out to play cricket one time, and I
Wow.
only lasted like 10 minutes, and I had to come home, and I was lying down in front of the AC, having like lemon water, and just trying to like come back to life. Yeah, one of those moments similar to the Toronto one when I just went out without wearing enough layers. So
I think you need to be more
there's a
prepared.
pattern there, right? You can see there's a pattern there. Okay, if your life this week was a song, would it be a high energy Bollywood song or like a lo-fi London beats?
If today, like this week,
This week, yeah,
if this week my life was a song, it would probably be like a lo-fi, smooth
yeah,
R&B sort of a song.
to match the vibe, right? The weather and everything.
Yeah.
Can't be listening to that Coca-Cola song in this weather, right? Just
Maybe in the summer, you never know. You never know.
yeah, exactly. Um, okay, an afternoon people watch in an LA cafe or a quick to-go coffee in busy Toronto.
People watch in Toronto. Wherever I'm one of those people, I don't
Yeah,
do takeaway with coffees. I like to take my
nice.
time, I sit there, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
It's quite nice to do that, right? Just to like
Yeah.
sit there, have your coffee. I'm the same actually. I've stopped doing takeaway coffees now.
Oh,
If I'm
good.
going to a cafe, I'm gonna sit down.
Yeah, it's very it gives you time to slow down and just be there and reflect.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's no point getting a takeaway. You don't even enjoy the coffee. You're just in a
No.
rush. It's like might
It
as well
gets cold
not
in
do it.
this weather, I'm out and I'm having instead of a flat white, I'm having a nice latte. It's gonna be very cold by the time I'm
Next one: a chaotic local market in Delhi or a quiet, organized M&S food hall in London.
I love my Dilly heart, but I love M&S as well. I think this is a mean comparison. I can't
Yeah.
pick. I would have to
Yeah,
take
I
heart there.
think M&S Food Hall is pretty good. And
It's
honestly,
so good.
recently they've really upped their game. So, whenever you're in London next time, you'll see like they have some really good stuff now. They've
It is,
really upped their game. I mean, the prices have gone higher, but
of
they've
course.
just started doing their gourmet range now with a lot of different food items. So they've introduced like a whole Spanish range now, which is amazing. They've got an Indian range now. So they've got an 8-hour slow cooked dal makhni.
Is it worth it?
Is really nice. For a supermarket dal makhni, I would say it's the best dal makhni. My
Is it
God, we're
better than
talking about dal
Dishyam?
makhni again.
Is it I need to know this, I'm so sorry, but is it
Yeah,
better than Dishyam? Because one thing that I still remember in London is I tell everyone to go to Dishyam to have their chai and their brunch. It's one of the best things.
yeah. I wouldn't say it's as good as Dishon, but I would say it's pretty close. Especially if you can have it at home,
Okay.
it's pretty good. It's the best supermarket dal makhni I've ever had. I think they've nailed it really. Okay, the last one to finish then. Do you have any other cities on your hit list or potentially that could come up in future that you would love to live there for a few years?
To live, I would say I would want to try New York for some time. I think New York is there in the back of my head. But apart from that, no. Just
I
I'll
mean,
go wherever life. Yeah.
New York is another big city, right? It's one of the global cities. I think there's London, New York. I think
Paris.
Paris is also another one.
Mm.
And then, yeah, I guess there's a lot more cities there. But yeah, New York is a great city. I did New York in that same trip as LA, and I loved it.
Wow. How long was your trip? That's
3 weeks, yeah. I bought so much I Heart NY merchandise on that trip. Like I had mugs, t-shirts, caps, key rings, like you name it. I went overboard with that. Awesome. That was a really good rapid fire. Well done. Like you knew your answer straight away. You didn't hesitate, not once. Amazing. Samaris, honestly, it's been such a treat having you on the show. And, you're a very special guest, obviously, because as I started at the beginning of the episode, you're a serial expat. You've done 4 big cities and it doesn't look like you're slowing down anytime soon. So, I wouldn't put it past you that you've got few more cities lined up. And it's been great to hear your stories. And I'm sure people that are listening and want to do that have probably taken something out of it to help them mentally prepare for what's in store for them.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been amazing just to reminisce the past years, and thank you for giving me this platform. I hope that even just if one person listens to this and it's a help for them, it will be a success. But I'm very excited to see where the podcast goes. I'm very excited to see the other guests and listen to their experiences as well. So I'm really looking forward to how this goes along.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.